Hello. So I recently finished a trip to the beautiful Balkan region where I visited Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, and North Macedonia. In this video, I'll be showing you a number of ways that I have used ChatGPT in throughout my trip to make it a little bit easier and more streamlined. Hello, my name is Bahrawi, and in this channel, I share some of the stuff that helped me level up my life, whether I'm traveling or at home. Now, let me just say that all of the things that I have used ChatGPT for in this video could be done by other tools that have existed in the past before ChatGPT and other large language models. However, in my view, ChatGPT has a couple of advantages. The first one is that you can manage and do all of the things that I've talked about in this video in a really polished manner using only a single app without relying on a different number of apps. But the second one, and the most important advantage in my point of view, is that you can personalize and tailor the request and the thing that you want to do exactly to your needs. So without further ado, let me tell you the ways in which I have used ChatGPT to help me during my last trip to the Balkans. So the first thing is that I used ChatGPT to design a self-guided walking tour for me. So the first time I tried this, I was in a city called Mostar in Bosnia and Herzegovina, a beautiful city by the way. And I was supposed to have a walking tour at 10 a.m. And for some reason, I missed my walking tour and I arrived 10 minutes late. And I couldn't find the group, and it was a free walking tour and a last minute thing. So I just decided, okay, I'm just going to roam by myself throughout the city. And then I decided to maybe try and ask ChatGPT to design a self-guided walking tour for me. So I just gave ChatGPT my exact location and asked that I wanted a walking tour that contains all walkable places. I didn't want to take any sort of transportation, and I asked ChatGPT to give me a piece of information for each of the things that I was seeing. Now, a major advantage of using ChatGPT is that if you go to a specific cathedral that you like, or you see a very cool monument, you can ask follow-up questions and know more about this specific place, that the answers stick to your mind much more than if you're just presented with loads of information during a regular walking tour. Now, of course, the negative aspect of using ChatGPT to generate a walking tour is you lose out on that social gathering aspect of the walking tours. And honestly, I have met a lot of cool people and made a number of friends just going to the regular walking tours throughout the years, especially in Europe. So I wouldn't say it would be a replacement for me, but maybe in the cities where there's not much going on in terms of tourism, and there are not already established walking tours available, this would be a very viable alternative for me. Also, in some days during travel, you just want to travel by yourself, you just don't want to socialize. In these days, this also might be a very good option. Another really cool thing that I have used in this specific tour is that after I walked for maybe an hour and a half, I asked ChatGPT to just give me some recommendations for places around me that I could just chill in and have a traditional Bosnian setting and stuff. So this could also be baked into the prompt from the beginning. You can ask ChatGPT to give you strategic rest places between the different monuments or the different things that you're supposed to see, so you can have a rest in between. Also, a bonus point, and this is not specific to this to the walking tour thing, but if you don't want to text or write a lot of prompts or a long prompt for ChatGPT, you can always use the speech to text option, or use even the interactive option where you can have a conversation with ChatGPT, although that might be a little weird in some social situations. Also, another way that ChatGPT might shine in this specific scenario is that if you had a very niche interest, for example, you wanted to see some sort of architecture that is present in this city, or you are excited to see only churches or cathedrals or mosques, most probably, especially in less touristic cities, you'll not find any human-generated content that could give you an itinerary or a walking tour design for you to roam through. So asking ChatGPT for this might be very helpful to give you very niche suggestions and where to start and where to go and so forth. Now, the second way in which I've used ChatGPT is using it as my personal translator. For example, in my first day in Bosnia, I wanted to order some traditional food and I sat at a restaurant and the menu was in Bosnian, of course. And I used ChatGPT, I took a picture and I asked ChatGPT to translate the menu for me. Now, Google Lens is very famous for doing this sort of stuff and it works really well most of the time. But what makes ChatGPT special in this regard is that you can actually ask more questions that are not related to the direct translation. For example, I would ask ChatGPT what is the most traditional dish in this menu, what is the most Bosnian thing to try, and for example, you could ask other questions as well. If you have some sort of dietary preferences, you can ask if this plate typically includes this kind of ingredient or not. So maybe you are lactose intolerant, you want to know if this meal is done with having milk or not, or cheese or not, and then you can decide what to order or what not to order, or depending on your dietary preferences or whatever it is. Now, the third way I have used ChatGPT during my travel is just taking pictures of stuff and then giving the photo to ChatGPT and asking questions about it. Again, this is quite like Google Lens and you can use it for it, but in my experience, I found that this is more accurate. You get more accurate information most of the time using ChatGPT, and you have the added bonus of asking follow-up questions directly, specifically about this photo. So for example, I was just walking one day in a random park in Serbia, specifically in Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, and I saw this cool monument and I just took a picture of it, gave it to ChatGPT and asked who is this man in the monument? And like I got a very reasonable answer. I asked a couple of follow-up questions and to be honest, I don't remember. I just remember that he was some sort of author, Serbian author or something like this. But at the moment, it was nice to have this quick interaction and learn something new very, very quickly. Another anecdote in which I have used this feature, and it's not very travel specific, but it was very, very helpful. So I was staying at a hostel in Mostar, the city I was in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I was ready to get to sleep, and there was this curtain that I couldn't close, and I wanted to close it because I know in the morning there would be like sunlight, and I had a very tiring day the day before, and I wanted to sleep until late, so I wanted to just have the shades closed off, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out the mechanism of this shade and how to close it. So I just took a picture of the pulley mechanism or the thing that is supposed to make the curtain move, and like I asked ChatGPT how to close it. As you can understand, it was a last ditch effort and like I didn't expect anything out of it, but like it shocked me. And I know it's silly, it's like it's not a big deal, but like I felt a great sense of achievement that I was able to get the answer from ChatGPT, and like for thinking about it, from being able to actually close the shades and go to sleep knowing that I succeeded in this very, very, very small very small thing, to be honest, but like I had a very, very, very nice sleep afterwards. Another very common thing that people use ChatGPT for, and I used it a couple of times in this trip, is to ask ChatGPT to give you an itinerary for your trip in general. Again, the beauty of this thing with large language models is that you can ask and go back and forth to have something that is really personalized and tailored to your tastes. For example, if I was staying in a city for like 4 or 5 days, I would ask ChatGPT to give me an itinerary for 3 days only so I could have a little bit of leeway and maybe do other plans that might come up with people that I meet and stuff. And similar to the point with the self-guided tours, you could ask for off-the-beaten-path recommendations. For example, if you're into some kind of artistic bars or some kind of accommodation, you can always include this in the prompt and go back and forth and tailor it so you can have a very unique itinerary planned. And it might not be perfect, but it's a starting point that is extremely valuable. Like there has not been anything like this before. And again, I found this to be much more valuable in places that are less touristic. For example, if you are in Barcelona or Rome or a place that is very touristic, you're probably gonna find a lot of human-generated content that is of high quality. But if you are in a very non-touristic place or just moderately touristic place, ChatGPT might give you a recommendation that you wouldn't have otherwise thought of or found online easily. Now, the fifth point I use ChatGPT for is using it as a translator slash teacher. So I have this like set of words, around 6 or 7 words that I always want to know when visiting a new city or a new country with a different language that I do not speak, and I always want to know how to pronounce them. So words like hello, sorry, bye, and this sort of thing, I have just like a note on my phone, and whenever I go to a new place, I just enter this same prompt into ChatGPT and get the translations and put them in my notes. And like it's much easier than just putting word by word into Google Translate. Again, this is just a quality of life improvement. It's nothing revolutionary or anything like that. It's just making things more streamlined and easier for myself. Also, regarding the 6 or 7 words that I just choose to include, I just know that there are loads and loads of YouTube channels teaching literally every language available to people, and the basic terminology and stuff that you can use in everyday life. But I just like to have this 6 to 7 words that are very basic to start with, and I don't want to essentially learn something very dense or watch videos. So this is like my go-to way to have like this hello and goodbye and sorry and excuse me. This is especially important in the Schengen zone, for example, where like each country has different language. But if you're staying in one place for a longer time, you just might want to go deeper into the language of the place you're staying in, rather than just having diluted sort of knowledge. Anyway, these were the travel-specific ways in which I used ChatGPT during my last trip to the Balkans. Recently, I've just been noticing that I've been reaching out to ChatGPT more often than Google, which is crazy, especially if I wanted to just have a general grasp or something, or I'm bouncing ideas rather than searching for factual or specific information about something. Anyway, thank you for watching and have a nice rest of your day.